Perfect. Welcome, everyone. I'm admitting people and welcoming people. Got to do it in threes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I was just,
I'm muting because you know.
thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. See who we see today.
I feel like a visitor because I haven't been here for a week.
Oh,
I
hi,
see
Joy.
new names. I see some new names and some, I don't want to call y'all old faithfuls because y'all are just the committed crowd.
Hey, Miss Susan Hutchinson. Hi, everybody.
You're going to have to give me the last week rundown.
From Florida, tell us where you are. If you guys are new, tell us if you're new and tell us where you are. I think we know where some of
Hey,
y'all
Susan.
are.
Yeah, tell us who you are, where you're from, if you're new or if you're family. You're always family, whether you're new or old, but it's just good to know.
Hi, Mr. Joseph Dillard.
Hello, hello, hello. Joseph Dillard. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm familiar. I'm not new, but I haven't been here in a while. So, hey, good to see you.
Hey,
Yeah, same here. I just left Atlanta last week.
Okay.
Good to be back home.
That's not my hometown, but that's where I live. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you.
oh,
I've been to we went to Minneapolis once. Well, I've been to Minneapolis, I think once or twice.
Okay. Okay.
Once in the cold, and it was not. I was not
yep.
pleased.
If you're from Atlanta, that's the first thing that stands out if you're there between October and April.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested. And I think the second time I went, it was raining.
Mm.
So no, I just no.
Right
I,
now, they're dealing with extreme heat, unusual heat. They're in the 90s and humid, which is very unusual for Minnesota this time of the year. And they've already hit 102.
yeah, no.
Oh, wow. Woo.
Mm.
Exactly. Very unusual. Again,
Oh,
it's great to be here.
thank
Excellent.
you.
Good
Good
to
to
see
see
you. Linda says she's new to the Monday night call, but rarely misses a Wednesday. That's what I was going to say. I recognize names,
you.
but you're
Right.
new to Monday Night Live. What brought you over to Monday Night Live? You just coming to check us out? What brought you here? Open to anyone. We're going to get started in a second. But this is the Monday Night Live experience. I'm Tamika, Executive Director of the D Free Foundation, and I have my amazing, I'm gonna call her the host because not I haven't been here in a week or two. Janaya, my Deputy Director, the reason I'm still here and breathing and living,
Hey,
my
everybody.
lifeline.
Hi, everybody.
Oh,
Hey.
Good.
Linda, you're getting ready to join the Academy. Welcome.
Excellent. Excellent.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and dive in since we did our intros. This is Monday Night Live, the destination for community and connection with the D Free family. Just quick housekeeping. Um, Everyone should be on mute unless you've already spoken or you will be speaking. We do that just to minimize distractions. You know, we're all kind of moving around and see my phone is ringing. See, distraction. The session is being recorded. Hold on, let me decline that. The session is being recorded, and so if you're watching the recording, welcome. But if you're new here, the session will be available for you later. So if you have to drop off or for any reason you missed something, you can always go back to it. And the chat feature is where we do most of our conversing. You can drop your comments, your questions, your feedback, your testimony, anything you'd like to share. Feel free to always type it into the chat. But also you can raise your hand. We do like live convo. This is an opportunity for us to engage kind of live and in person. And so if you're interested in speaking, you can raise your hand and we will get you unmuted so that you can speak. I missed last week. So really quickly, I'll run through our programs. Monday Night Live was actually born out of the launch or the relaunch of our D Free Academy earlier this year. For many of you, some of you, you have joined the D Free Academy during our inaugural class that we launched in January. And we offered this Monday night destination as a way to do kind of community coaching. Like we could review the content from the course, we could talk about how you're progressing, we could go through testimonies, we can share some additional insight. And this movement kind of just grew out of that. We really found that it birthed a community that we hadn't really had in D Free where we could talk as the D-Free team directly to people that are going through the D-Free process. We've always tried to maintain a strong relationship with our group leaders, but this really put us in a situation where we can connect directly with people that are actually doing D-Free. And so we offer the D-Free Academy, which gives you full 24/7 access to our D-Free lifestyle course, as well as specific courses by audience. So we are running a course with Divine Nine right now. So for all of our sorority and fraternity members, you already know about the Academy. We're also going to be launching a class under the Faith and Finance banner coming up next month. And so we'll have plenty of opportunities to engage there, but also $1 Billion Challenge. That is where the rubber is really meeting the road, where we're showing how much debt we're able to pay off together. Is our confidential platform that you can go in, create an individual profile. You can connect with groups that are paying down debt and saving together. And it really is a great destination. We are almost at $31 million. I'm very much excited about that. Very, very
I have
excited.
2 things before we go out of here.
Uh-huh.
If you are on and we have leaders, we also remind them that Monday Night Live is a great destination if you're facilitating classes and you want to just kind of join the community where we have topical conversations. It does give an offering to your classes. So we've had some nights where those that are facilitating classes might invite some folks over. We get to meet some other people that are doing D-Free, kind of expand a little bit. So that's exciting. Some of our, Memphis Coalition has joined a few times. We've had some different folks on, so it's great to see others on. Additionally, I just wanted to see if everybody on how they are doing in the $1 Billion Challenge. If you're on, if you're in there, are you part of the 30 million? Because this is such a big, exciting thing. Sometimes we've been so focused on Academy, we've forgotten $1 Billion Challenge just a little bit, or we get super hype about all the new things that are happening in Academy. So just want to check in on our BDC folks too. If you're in there, raise your hand. Hi, Joyce. Hi, everybody. Just tell us if you're in the $1 Billion Challenge. Like, how's it going? And are you in and are you using it?
All right. And I'm going to say Burma Box, your hand is raised. I'm going to ask you to unmute if you had something to share. I want to give you the opportunity to do that. Let's see if I can find you.
Oh, sorry. That's an error.
Oh, well, hey.
Hi. Hi, Tamika. Burma
How are
from
you?
Chicago.
Excellent. Good to hear from you.
Okay.
All right. We'll go ahead and mute you back so you don't. Okay, there we go. All right. We have a few people that are in BDC. How's it going so far? If you're in BDC, are you a part of the 30 million? Are you making progress in there? I know this is our super active group in all places D-Free.
Oh, we got Kia on tonight. Hey, Kia.
Making progress, saving some. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I actually have to go in and update my BDC. I put some new goals in there, but I've actually been making progress on the goals. So I got to go back and do some historic data entry so I can make sure that I'm in the number. Some of it is in there, but I want to make sure it's all there. And I'll encourage you too, if you've had some D-Free wins prior to signing up for BDC, feel free to go back and recapture that. Like we've had families pay down hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. That still counts. The reality is we want to show that collectively we've been able to pay down $1 billion and to save as much as possible. And so any work that you've done D-Free related can be entered into BDC at any time. I'll say this one caveat. We do have groups that are in there with competitions. And so be honest and be diligent about what you're reporting, but also keep in mind if there are contest considerations that may prohibit you from entering data at any given moment or that may be excluded. Just keep that in mind as you go through. But every dollar helps to be able to see, and it's really encouraging to see that number go up.
Excellent. Great. We got some BDC testimonies too.
Yes, I love it. I see it. I see it. So Juneteenth is Saturday. Saturday. If you've been on Monday Night Live or on anything D-Free related, you know that we are heavy on the season of Juneteenth, not just about celebrating, but taking action. And so kudos to all of you that have done something D-Free related as we lead up to Juneteenth, but also for those of you groups that may be launching as a part of Juneteenth, or thereafter, we are celebrating this Saturday. Dr. Sories is super excited that Earth, Wind, and Fire and a bevy of other entertainers and artists will be participating in the Unity Fest celebration on Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. It's going to be a great day. I don't know if anybody's visited the website already, but I encourage you to do so. This is the celebratory aspect of Juneteenth. And so it's a great way to celebrate all that we've accomplished through our ambassadors and influencers, but also a way to kind of unify us all across a variety of different organizations to really celebrate freedom for African American people. And so I'm really excited about this. Is anybody else gonna be at the concert this weekend? I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. I'm sitting here dropping the website in the link now. Also, if you are a part of the D-Free Juneteenth campaign as an ambassador or a leader or an influencer or a volunteer, make sure that we have your address so that we can get you your D-Free swag, hopefully in time for Saturday's concert. We have some amazing caps that Miss Deb from our team helped to get designed, and we will be sending those out in the mail this week. So hopefully you will get them in time. All right. Also this weekend, which I did not realize, I probably should do better about this. This weekend is Father's Day weekend, and we will be celebrating fathers and the men in our lives and the influences that they've had on our financial lives. Today, we'll also have a special guest on this Wednesday's webinar to talk about, the history of Juneteenth and being a dad and managing money. We actually have a few guests. Shonda, I might have you come on and do a quick commercial for webinar, but we thought we'd use today, or to start today's conversation, with looking at some testimonies from a variety of men from the D-Free community. While in the past, historically, most of our D-Free participants have been women. The men that have been a part of D-Free have either been in the leadership role as a pastor that is, ushering D-Free into this church or community, or men that believed in it individually. But it's rare that we've really shined a spotlight outside of one specific event I'm thinking of. I don't think we've done like kind of a for men only or like a men's perspective on money type panel conversation in a very long time. And so what I wanted to do today was to hear from 3 distinct voices in the D-Free community, and then have a little conversation about how the men in your lives may or may not have impacted your financial journey. Any tips, any perspectives, any memories that you'd like to share. But I think we'll start off with our testimony. So we have the audio here. We'll start, and each of them offers something different. So we have Fred Hammond, who everybody should know. Go for it.
You got an uphill climb. You know why? Because we're consumers and we've not been taught to be producers. And we like stuff. I do. I like stuff. But I wish somebody would have taught me first how to be a producer and to delayed gratification. See, delayed gratification to me when I was coming up in school was me and my mother just wasn't gonna buy that. It just meant that she was working 3 jobs to make sure that we could eat. But she didn't teach us the value of it. It just, it just lingered until, so I said stuff like, man, as soon as I can get out of here, man, I'm gonna have the baddest car with the baddest rims. And that's the first thing I went and looked at too, as soon as I could get $200 in my pocket. Nice car, nice rims. And it kept me broke. So if anything else, teach your kids. And if they could add a curriculum to school, I would tell them add financial literacy. Understand, financial literacy. Teach the kids early.
Yeah. So that one, I'm looking in the chat about the stuff comment. Did that hit anybody in any particular place? Do you like stuff too? Did you have the, as soon as I can, I'm gonna go and do whatever?
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all that is within me.
Yes, so I am guilty as charged as it relates to that comment, but also, the whole thought of being a producer. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship in our respective journeys with that, but that's really, really important to think about how to make money, not just from a work standpoint, but how to create opportunities to create additional income for yourself. I hope we didn't lose Kyle all the way. Let me see. So true to teach our children early about the value of money. The rhetoric remains, teach your kids young. Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of young, we're going to hear from a younger voice, and then we'll kind of roll through these, and then we'll converse after. So let's hear from Ashton.
My name is Ashton Burrell. I'm a mentor, humanitarian, and author. One of the moments that I realized what debt was like a couple months out of college. I got a phone call saying, like, you owe this amount of money. And I'm like, whoa. A lot of times people don't know what they're getting themselves into. The importance of D-Free and the financial literacy that it provides is so important to young people nowadays. One of the aha moments was with D-Free. I was like, man, I can't be on here telling people to save their money and then I'm gonna go out and spend like $50 on lunch. You gotta practice what you preaching. When I'm giving advice, I'm basically giving advice that D-Free gave to me. Everything that I wanted out of life was on the other side of debt. And when I learned how to pull myself out of it, that's when everything changed.
That was a good one too. Everything you want is on the other side of that. All right. We're gonna roll on through. Let's do Reverend Dixon, and then we can chat from there.
I envision D-Free helping the members at the church where I pastor, and in turn, they being able to help the community, because if we're in debt and we continue this cycle, we would never be able to live out our fullest potential as it relates to giving back to the community, leaving the community better than it was when we founded it. So I believe this D-Free conference is going to help those who are here from our church to learn and understand the principles of, as Dr. Soares says, learning how to manage our life better. Not so much our money, but once we learn to manage our lives better, then we can in turn help to manage the community better and those who live in the community to do better. So the Bible says in Proverbs 13, that a wise man will leave an inheritance for his children's children. And if we remain in debt, we can never leave that kind of inheritance for our children so that they might be able to live better lives than we're living now.
Absolutely. So I think those were, go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, these are so great because they touch on such key components, I think, when we think about, so not only our own self personally, but then, you know, Fred Hammond talk about being a child and learning as children. So then we kind of have that aspect, and then also the community impact of when we really tackle this debt that we're in, and even our finances. So, you know, with debt, we always say is getting to zero. Like we want to eliminate debt, but as he said, everything else exists on the other side of debt. So that's just getting to zero. Then we start to look at building assets and not having stuff, and what does this look like and the impact to our community. So these are all so really good and all encompassing, I think, of the whole journey of D-Free. And then how do we, you know, impact our families and such.
Absolutely. And it's rare that we really focus on, you know, the male perspective. Like money is green, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the differences between the way men are wired and women are wired as it relates to life, you know, let alone money. And I think our approaches tend to align with what our approach to life is. And so, you know, it's interesting hearing these three perspectives and what they have to share about money. Anyone want to share, have a gem or something that a man in your life has shared with you, or a behavior, like what you learned from the men in your life around managing money? That's the topic for tonight. And it is Black Music Month, Bev. I got something special for y'all coming on Wednesday. You just wait, it's coming.
I'll start because I have one. I say this all the time. So my father is very frugal and has done very well. Very minimal debt. He, you know, he is a little bit old school. He's a little bit mattress money and doesn't trust banks and, you know, things like that. But live very frugally. My brother is very frugal. I unfortunately inherited whatever spending gene there is in the family. I got all of it. None of my brothers, just it all landed on me. And so he always used to tell me, it won't matter if you make $1 million because you're going to spend $1,000,001. You always be broke. So That was, and it's always stuck with me. And you hear every version of that. You know, we talk about that. Dr. Sori says a version of kind of that. But it's true. So it won't matter how much you continue to make. And I've lived that, learned things the hard way. But that's one that I think always sticks with me that my father gave me. He was fussing at me at first, and then it became kind of an anecdote, like a gem for me. But at first,
Right.
it was fussing.
No, I think about what my dad showed me. I think about my dad and my grandfathers. They showed me that if you have hands and feet and can work, you can always make money. And if you have a mind to think, you can always figure out how to make money. And so I don't know if that had any effect on me changing jobs 1,000,001 times, but my grandfather was, self-employed, an independent truck driver. My dad ended up kind of following that same vein and then started a series of businesses over my life. I could count on two hands how many businesses my dad has started. But their big thing was, as long as you have breath in your body, a brain in your mind, and your hands and feet work, you can go out and make some money. Mm-hmm. And so I think I took that to heart in too many instances. I think, like you, I picked up the shopping gene. So I know how to work, but I know how to shop too. I don't know who taught me that part. Someone said, Dad said, pay yourself first. Dad was right. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Elder Dillard, you have something to share? You want to speak?
Sure. You can call me Joseph.
All right.
One thing, as a financial educator and someone who struggled and learned the hard way, it's interesting. I love what Fred said. It's so important. It's not just doing the right thing, but intentionally teaching the right thing. I recall me telling my son that I taught him about stocks and investment. He said, "You didn't teach me." And the thing is I thought because I was doing something, they were picking it up. No, you have to be very, very intentional. Just because you're paying the bills, just because they have a place to live, doesn't mean they're picking it up, that they want to have some place to live and they want to pay the bills. You have to be very intentional with those lessons. And that's something that's very, very important. It doesn't just come by osmosis. It doesn't just come. Some people will pick it up. But in the majority, you have to be very intentional about teaching your children about money.
Yeah.
I 1,000% agree. All my background in banking, you do kind of assume, or they've been in your classes, right? They've seen you talk about it. They hear you teach others. And I assume that same thing with my children. My daughter got my spending gene times 30,000. She spends far worse than I ever did. But you do assume when you kind of live that space that they do get it by osmosis, and then you get to the end and realize they do not. You have to sit and teach them exactly like you would teach someone who wasn't even in your household.
No, absolutely true. I agree. I think Rayetta has her hand raised as well. Let's see. Rayetta?
Yeah, hi. This will show my age, but when I was younger, we always had to write notes and stuff to people when we got stuff. And I remember one day I asked my father for an 8-cent stamp because I had to mail something off. And my father said, "Where's the 8 cents?" And I said, "I don't have it." And he says, "Then when you get it, then you'll be able to mail this off." And that's what I learned. But my father was the type, he probably had mucho amounts of money under the mattress because he didn't like banks. He didn't like doctors. He didn't buy anything, but my mother managed the money. But he made it, but he didn't spend it, So that's the lesson I learned. So that if I wanted something, I had to be able to come up with the funds to get it.
Absolutely.
Those are both good ones. Very, very good ones. And thank you both for sharing. Anybody else have any money thoughts that have come from male perspectives in their lives? It doesn't have to be your dad. It could be anyone in your life.
Susan said her dad taught them to have a plan and a budget to buy things. If it was not in the budget, he did not buy it until he saved up for it. So good. That is so good. We talk about the spend culture and ease of credit cards and how we can spend so easily that we kind of got away from really saving up for things that are, not assets. We don't
Right.
need to borrow if it's not something that's not an asset that's going to build us some assets. So
Yeah.
good.
Good one. Rebecca, you have your hand raised. Would you like to speak? We can unmute you. Let's see.
Yes, I do.
Go for it. We can hear you.
All right. I learned from my granddaddy. He was the financial secretary at church, and he was a tither. And he took care of everybody. When my mom got sick, it was 7 children that they just took in. And I learned that you should be a tither because he didn't make much money, but he took care of everybody on his salary. So he taught me about being a tither.
I love that. There's no better way to see faith than to see it happen, directly through your family lines. Yes, my grandmothers, that was a big part of their own financial life. And to your point, they didn't make a lot, but they always had.
Exactly. And everybody was taken care of.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else have something to share? I think you can kind of unmute yourself. I feel like we're at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Burma, are you there? Did you have something to say again? Or am I just seeing your hand?
I don't know, Tamika, but my hand keeps raising. I'm trying to lower it.
Don't worry. I got you covered. No, this is good.
Okay.
This is good. Let's see. Joseph, your mention of layaway is a big deal. Like my mom made Christmas out of layaway was the thing. Like you had to plan your Christmas back in August if you thought you was gonna have a Christmas because the things had to go away in order for them to be paid for by the time Christmas got here. So I'm definitely with you on that. Olu says he learned how to find a bargain from his father and that it was enhanced by pastor stories in the men's fellowship, that it's okay to find things at bargain prices. Good stuff.
Absolutely. I was gonna say one of the things I love about when we do this is that even though times have changed, even though access to things might have changed, even though we might be in even a different financial situation, you can go right back to the basics and they're still true, right? Yeah. So even if they didn't do it the same way or they made less money, like a lot of us talk about even our history, it seems like they might have tend to done better. I feel like for sure myself, I feel like I was more frugal and did better. I went on more vacations when I made less money. I went on more things, but I did more things that was important and I was still able to save. I was more disciplined. So I noticed for myself that when I got more, I got a little lax with my discipline and I got a little bit freer with, being wasteful. And I had to, kind of get back on track myself. And you can almost course correct back to these basics of, savings, saving for things that you want to purchase, the layaway, planning, just being deliberate. Because we can get off track and even gotten more wasteful by having more access to more things or more funds,
Yep. And I would definitely say having more, but also having access and visibility to more has been a game changer for us. Like I talk about it all the time. Like if we didn't have social media, what you would see is mostly influenced by what were in your surroundings. So if you saw, Jamaica, it was 9 times out of 10 a Jamaica commercial. And how often are you really going to see that in the course of watching television for an hour in the evening? But now it's like everything you see. I'm at Bora Bora, I'm in Jamaica, I'm driving a Bentley and I'm flying a private jet. And so we're getting, and not to say that those things are bad, but we're exposed to things that are way beyond most of our pay grades consistently. And so that desire registers and you just want to do it bigger and better and more. And it's not always the big things, the little things too. You think about Amazon. You 2 days ago, you didn't need a black toothbrush from Amazon, but if you decided you wanted a gold toothbrush today, you can go to Amazon and find that thing. And in 24 hours, it's at your doorstep when your little pink toothbrush you've been using is just fine. And those little things add up. Coffee, and I saw an article today that was talking about, you can't really change your financial world by cutting out a $3 cup of coffee, But that $3 cup of coffee is so indicative of just how we're used to spending that we just, your $3 thing becomes a $300 thing almost immediately, because now you're addicted to it. You have to have the cup, you have to have this. It's really, really, the times have changed and our exposure has changed, but those timeless, messages that we got, so easy to be lost today. Like, I know my grandmother wasn't looking at Young and the Restless. At least they worked on Young and the Restless. I don't even think people on our TV shows work anymore. So that's just a conversation all in and of itself.
Hey, if I could interject real quick, I said, let me come on camera. You said Jamaica, and hence my family is from there. So I just kind of want to shout out to the family members, because my uncle was instrumental in my life. Now, it wasn't always the verbal conversations as much as it was what I saw him do. And my uncle, I have two, but the one I'm talking about, who's my favorite, he's my older uncle, and he always gave me money for my birthday, even to this day. Like, I love my uncle. This year was funny because of COVID, and I was like, you didn't send them. I felt, anyway, long story short, the mail was messed up, and I felt my first time feeling hurt. But I say that to say that to the fathers and to the men who are listening, and even to the moms and whatnot, when your kids or children see the things you do and they like it, whether they ask questions about it or not, they're gonna remember it. So, like, he always gives money, I always give money. Sometimes I need to say, like, okay, you can peel this back, but that's my first go-to. You ain't gonna get a gift from me, you're gonna get a check from me. But that's what I learned, and because that's what my uncle did. And so I will write a check with the quickness. But so the lesson is to have money to back up the check. But so it's all of those, small things that come with it. But I will write a check. That's what I give to my girlfriends or whatever. I will give you a check. And that's because that's what I saw my uncle do. And in addition to the financial part, he also led a healthy lifestyle. So I remember him juicing. I remember him, doing a little eating peanut butter, a little scoop here and there, just those little things. And so, for family, we watch you. I think they always say, don't do what I what is it? Do what I say, not what I do, that kind of thing. But we watch you, and so we do what you do. So just keep that in mind. So if you writing checks, man, we watching it and we love it too.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
Checks, Janae, is excellent.
Huh?
I said the fact that you still have checks, girl, is excellent.
Checkbook right here. Checkbook right here. Writing checks today. Okay.
See, I'm the cash queen. I will go to the bank and get cash. One, because I have not, my last set of checks have an address from 7 years ago on it. So, and I just refuse to buy new ones. So it just don't look good for me to write a check. So it's just like, I got to change the address and change all that. But I tend to give cash or at least finance related gifts for that very reason. One, I'm trying to practice what I preach, like Ashton said, but also when I think about consumer culture and how gifts show up, like I remember when gift cards first came out, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, you can go pick out your own gift. But the reality is, once you buy the gift card, the company has already counted it as a sale. And 9 times out of 10, most people don't use them. My grandmother has gift cards from 3 and 4 years ago that I've given her for birthdays or Christmases. And there's nothing that the person can do with it outside of just hold on to the card or lose it. So at least with cash, you can make a conscious decision to not necessarily spend it. Like, you can save it, you can give some of it. But with a gift card, you're really restricting, like, the activity is limited to shopping.
Don't sleep on a check. Don't sleep on a check, because 2 things are happening when I give a check. If they don't got a bank account, they got to go to the bank. And then keep in mind, the way banks are today, it ain't going cash that quick. So I'm not tripping off of it.
Right.
But, I'm old school. I'm not going to go away from the stamps and the checkbook and that kind of thing. I mean, I just, that's just me. But back to the checks, I just think that, that's a little bit of practicality, and it's a little slow roll. It ain't going cash today or tomorrow. I'm not tripping.
Yeah.
And like I said, you got to go to the bank, to do what you need to do. Or now that we got banks that you just take the picture of it, hey, either way, but the checks do clear. So I'm no NSF here.
I know that's right.
I think the thing too, one of the things we talk about in D-Free is like some of the ease of swipe and, so some of it is just that I know like Tamika and I always talk about, we kind of keep old school calendars and notes and paper, but for both of us, like we realized I remember just working when everything became digital and I tried and I had a BlackBerry and everything was digital. I would forget more things and meetings and everything. But if I write it down, I will remember. So there is that. And I think I know it's called something, but when you write the check and you actually take the time to use a register, and keep track of it, there's real value in that, even though that isn't a system that's widely used anymore. But if it's a system that works for you, then I say keep doing it, whatever it is that works for you, so that you're able to see those things, write those things, keep track of that balance, know what you're doing. And then, sometimes that same thing happens on the receiving end of it. Cards and things might be really easy and they don't see that or feel that, but going to the bank or making the deposit or those kind of things also impact the other end as they, deal with that money and put that in the bank or deliberately put it in their savings. That's different than going to the car, with your gift card and swiping and doing more spending. They can decide to put those checks in their savings account or put it somewhere where they didn't expect to get it.
Yep. It drives the behavior. It's so funny now that I think about it. My granddad, we used to tease him because we were like the computer generation, but he kept a notebook with every important thing in that notebook. And I feel like he did it every year. So like almost every year of his life is documented in some way. And it would be like important phone numbers, doctor's appointments, money coming in, money going out. Like it was his life, like it would be his iPhone if he, had an iPhone. And that book saved him on so many occasions. I remember something happened with the house and the roof needed repair, but he remembered that they made an interim roof repair like a few months prior. And he went back to this book and he flipping through the pages and nobody could figure out what he was doing, but he had documented what he spent, the company he paid, what they were supposed to fix. And he ended up just calling them back because they had done the work wrong. And so had he not documented that, he would have ended up paying double. But that, I've always been a writer, not necessarily because of that, but now that I think about it, it does show up financially. Like it may not have been his check register, but he kept a written record of how things were going in his life in all areas. And that book had his money, his health, like he could tell you what his blood pressure was on a specific date because he was also a doctor in his mind too. And so, those values and those lessons, now I could see it more than anything show up.
We got some great tips in here. We want to make sure we share tips with folks. Christmas clubs. Do you guys do Christmas clubs or savings clubs? I remember when I managed banks, the Christmas clubs I used to be so envious of people that had all their Christmas clubs lined up. Christmas clubs for each of their children. Dealey looks like he shared Google extensions, very useful, like Honey or Capital Shopping.
They give you money back on the back end. So if you're shopping online, they automatically, and Rakuten, that was the other one. Rakuten used to be Ebates. I think I realized that like a year or so ago, but as you shop online, it automatically gives you your cash back or discounts on the purchases.
I'll tell you your asterisk though, any of those, be careful because sometimes we get excited to shop to build that up. And so you're shopping to get the money. So just sometimes I would remind people it's like rewards cards, like sometimes we get really hype about the rewards and we won't put everything in. We might not be checking in if we're overspending to get that reward where we could have just saved that in the first place.
Right. No, I'm with you. In fact, I've been ignoring Capital Shopping because of that, because I don't need no extra encouragement.
I don't need nothing to, Dr. Soares is trying to work on me and you.
Let me see. Joyce said her dad taught us that money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money. We know that now is the root of all evil. But she said he taught her to never loan money if you needed it back, and loan money is lost money. So if you get it back, save it. If you need it back, save it. That's absolutely right.
That was Dr. Soares last week. Tamika, that's what you missed. He was talking about loaning money last week, remember?
Mm, mm.
And
Yeah, I
him
don't
falling
do
out with people who owe him money. That's what he was talking about.
well, that's the first thing you start to think about when you start to run low on cash. Didn't you owe me $50? And if you
Right.
have to be that way about it, you don't need to be in position to give it away. If you can't be a cheerful giver at all times, even when you need the money back, then you don't need to give it. No, I learned that the hard way. The hard way.
Somebody said AAA offers no fee gift cards around Christmas time.
That's a good one if you plan on incentivizing shopping. Let's see. Coupons. When the kids were at home, I did Christmas Club. My grandmothers did Christmas Club religiously. My mom, like I said, was like a layaway queen. She just always started early. And if she couldn't, then she did desperate times call for desperate measures. And she made sure we had Christmas, but it wasn't always the most financially sound way to do it. So I've seen the broad spectrum of what could happen financially, from payday loans all the way down. So I've seen it.
These are great. Now, conversely, not that we want to get on, is there anything that anybody learned maybe that they decided they weren't going to do?
Good question.
Because sometimes, you know, as we're talking about some of the great tips, was there anything that we watched that maybe we're like, you know, that was a habit I had to break?
Good question. Lending money. Yep, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you, Janae, because my daddy falls out with people when he loans money. So he has a great heart, but he gets taken advantage of because of that. So they tend to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to help everyone. So sometimes I'm like, Daddy, you got to exercise a little, because then you're upset because they don't follow through.
This is a good impulse buying without comparison shopping. That's a good one. That's a good one. Bev, I see your question. I'm going to answer that in a second. Don't shop for ungrateful grandchildren. Well, we can't all pick our family. We can't all pick our family. We just got to know how to treat them. No, I actually, strangely enough, my dad was he's still alive. So my dad has been a serial entrepreneur for a very long time. But one of the things like I noticed in a not so good way, love my dad to death. He is the king of get over. If I could find a way to get around or not pay, like my dad would have been the one like changing our ages to go to the movies, or like, you know, you tall enough to be 7. You're not really 11, so just be 7 for today. Little things like that. And it taught me like that there are no real shortcuts, because always on the back end, it'd be something like, I promise you, he would take a shortcut on something and then something would happen like right after that. Like I just remember we were going to Kmart for something. This is really random, but very much related. We were going to Kmart for something. And earlier in the day, he had gotten over somehow. I don't know if it was like free French fries and down. It was something small. But by the time we got to Kmart that evening, it was a parking spot. That's what it was. He cut somebody off to get a parking spot early in the day. When we went to go to Kmart that evening, he called himself whipping into a parking spot and he hit someone else's car. So it cost us money. And those kind of lessons, I remember it happening repeatedly in our lives. Like he would get over and like, oh, I got you this early on. And then something would happen on the back end. And it definitely showed me that there are no real shortcuts in life. Like you have to do the work. And I remember my mom always working to kind of clean it up on the back end. She's like, Freeman, I told you that this wasn't what I'm supposed to do. But, you know, those are things that I remember seeing. And I'm very, very conscious of that now. Like if you give me something extra, or like I've definitely had luck and fortune fall upon me, but when I know things are done in error, I'm very conscious to try to clean them up or to do something to scrub my energy so that that mistake doesn't show up in other places. Very much about that.
I was going to add, I think one of the things we learned, Tamika, you were mentioning earlier, was that, you know, they were hard workers. So I come from a long line of Lake men who are very hard workers. My granddaddy was a bricklayer. You know, we just have all of these stories in Tennessee and the South about these hardworking men. And so, you know, I think watching my father worked very hard. But one of the things when I was at home or I was with him just on his birthday just a couple weeks ago, he said, I never really thought, and this is part historical, right? But part of it is that he said, I wish I would have known to buy houses. I wish I would have known. So he's very frugal, did well, raised us all, worked very hard, but wasn't taught to make that work for him. So he learned that hard work. He learned that. And he was talking to me and my brother saying, you know, I didn't know. And I knew a lot of like financial things I've learned being in banking, not because my family taught it. And so for him, it was, I think of all the opportunities that I could have created, you know, or really looked for wealth opportunities. And he was so hardworking. So it's kind of that double-edged sword. You know, he wasn't a deadbeat. It wasn't like that situation where he wasn't doing it. It was just he wasn't ever taught it. And he was like, if I would have just known what to do as I was working so hard to help leave things or, you know, create wealth or teach you all this thing, you know, so that all of that you guys had to learn on your own and now trying to transfer that to your children. So we learned that, you know, great hard work ethic. But then you think of like, you know, and that's a historical context for us in our communities of really how we translate that to those opportunities of creating wealth. And so that's something I think we all talk about within our family now.
I want to throw something in if it's okay.
Absolutely.
As we're talking about men, I think it's important to note that men are, the thing about men, us, is that we're very individualistic, if you will. And it's so important. I've noticed, I mean, I've taught classes on finances, tried to encourage people to do things, and there's so many women. There are a lot of men, but the way you, that I found that it's important to approach them is through relationship, because men will be all by themselves, making sure nobody knows their business. However, if you can get men to come together in relationships, sometimes it takes having an event where there's couples, because men will come with their wives. Sometimes it takes having an event where it's just men, but at the same time where they can relate to each other, because still they're going to sit there until somebody speaks up, because they're not telling anybody their business. But it's so important to figure out ways to get men to talk about these important issues. And like I said, relationship is so important. Once they feel like they've got a relationship, they can trust you, then that's when things start to change, as far as I've seen. Again, couples, you know, wives will bring their husbands or their partners, whatever, they will bring them. And that might be the only way you'll get them there. But once you get them there, and then if they feel comfortable enough to share, if they feel comfortable enough with you leading, not judging, informing, empowering, then it will start to change. Because sometimes I look around often and I'm just like, where are the men? Some of you know, this month I'm giving away a book a day for 30 days up till Juneteenth. Say Yes to No Debt. I've had maybe 4 men apply for it. I know more than 4 men, but the men they're not applying for this free book. Women, yeah, definitely. And sometimes the men are getting the book because the women signed them up. So it's something that is so, so important for us to remember, to figure it out, because we need it just as much as anybody. And I'll dare to say, even more so if we're leading families and organizations and things like that, we need it. And again, we need to figure out ways to make men feel comfortable, responsible, and all those things in order to get the very, very important information that's needed. Thank you for that.
No, that's really, really important for you to say that. Like, 2 of the things that we noticed this year, one, when we did our 4 men only event, the panelists were men and the audience was men, and we got great feedback. When we were traveling around the country, though, the bulk of our audiences tended to be women. And if there were men there, they tend to be leaders of the church and just kind of hosting, but not necessarily participating. But when we pivoted to online programming, our numbers started to even out a little bit more. So now we're seeing more men, because the relational element, like at least the emotional element, because when we do events, like there would always be like, you know, there's church, there's testimonies, there's a singer there, like there is very, very high emotion. around the D-free programming. And now that we've gone digital, it's a lot more information, and the emotion aspect of it is kind of pulled back a little bit. So, you know, we're seeing that men come for information, not necessarily for a relationship. And it's like, is this information I can use for myself? And then, you know, the relationship door comes after it. But that's really, really great feedback for us. And I think as we start transitioning either back to live or even with our digitals, we might have an invite your spouse or partner to a D-free event.
I think that's excellent. That's such a great point too. I always said I built business working at the bank because I knew how women dealt with money. I knew how men dealt with money. I would say I go to women events. Women, we could refer somebody. I could tell Tamika, if I say go bank with Joseph, she's like, okay, and she'll show up and bring her statements, her bank account, everything, because she trusts me. So she'll go and do it. Joseph, if I tell you to go to Tamika, you say, I'll go see. And you go to her,
Right.
You have to test her out. You have to see what you think. You have to see if you trust her. You have to see how you feel. Sometimes it's also a vulnerability to be able to share,
Absolutely.
you know, what you need help with. And you got to trust in that space. And so it's a very different dynamic where I trust Tamika and I'll do what she tells me.
Right.
And I'll just go and do it, where they need to also, because of that, there's, you know, a lot of times they're leading families, leading decisions, and they just operate differently. So they need to see the space, test the people first, and then open themselves up to, you know, what their vulnerabilities may be or what they need to learn in that space.
Quickly, I just want to mention the recording we heard in the beginning. I thought it was so dynamic. I'd love a copy because I think people just see Fred Hammond. I see him. I want to know what's he got to say about money as a man, right? So if I could get a copy of that or find out where it is, because I think if I showed that on my page, people might just listen to it to see what Fred Hammond has to say about money. So those kind of things are important too, because a lot of times you don't, I'm trying to think of Black men who you hear talking about money like that.
Yep.
And there aren't a lot.
So we have a playlist called Testimonials, and I think Fred's is the very first one. So if you go to our YouTube channel, I'll try to pull up the direct link. But if you go to our YouTube and then click on playlist, and then it's I think it might be the last playlist on the list is Testimonials because they're in alphabetical order. If you click there, Fred's is the very first one. And I remember that event, Janai, I think you were there in Indy, where Fred was supposed to be performing. So we like literally have him for an hour performance. He gave a 32-minute testimonial about
40 minutes. Yeah,
it was long. Like people, you know, there were people that were there for the concert and they were like, but it was such great content because he literally walked through his whole experience as an artist, as an individual, as a man, managing money. And it was so poignant. I know we have the long form, but we just took snippets of it for the testimonial video, but people were upset. They were like, I came to hear you sing and you up here talking to me about money. So it's funny that you would want the longer one, but it's on the playlist.
Joseph, if it's not the long one, just send us an email. We have the long one. So you might want to see, because it is a lot about money, his money story, his background with money, sharing his own testimonials and when he, you know, got, you know, famous, you know, all the different things. So it's really good. The whole thing is really good.
That's great. Thank you. I want the short one for everybody else because a lot of people are impatient and they want to hear. Right. But definitely the longer one for myself. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that we share that. Anybody else have anything else to share? Tonight's time flew by. I didn't realize we have 7 minutes left. And thank you for popping the poll up. Thank you all that have served as Juneteenth ambassadors. This is kind of the last week of the campaign, but I wanted to, you know, we wanted to check in and kind of see how you've been sharing.
I was gonna say, Tina had her hand up. I don't know if
Tina Tanner.
Yeah.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Tina, if you still need to speak. Because
just briefly, because sometimes it is how we're raised. Because my dad didn't talk to us girls about money. His thing was it was the man's job to take care of the family. I look at my brothers, I look at my nephews, my son. They're all providers. So when my dad got sick, I didn't realize he owned 3 houses, not just the one house. You know, he had other assets, but he didn't share that with me. When I was married and wanted to get a loan, he wouldn't even talk to me. He went to my husband,
Wow.
to get the financing. He wouldn't do it with me. So I think now, especially in this society, we have to teach our girls and our boys about finances. And the things that I'm learning now, it would have been great to have been taught them. I mean, I could see the value of how he lived his life. But as far as money management and those types of things, that wasn't even on his radar for us girls. It just wasn't. So I just think what D-Free is doing is an awesome thing.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's so funny. So my dad's dad, so I told you my dad was like the get over king. My dad's father, my grandfather, was an independent trucker. He had 6 sons, 1 daughter. And he would always say, my daughter's the only one that got good sense. And so he poured so much of himself into her because she got the work and the management and the how to run a household and all of that. But then he would go so far as to say, well, I think everything skipped my kids and went to the next generation, because he was so impressive to his grandchildren around money and working and everything he wished that his kids would have picked up. He made sure that we at least heard it from him at least once in our lives. We got kind of the sit down talk, and I appreciate it so much. We have this running joke where my grandfather used to ask all the grandkids, when are you going to buy my mansion? And so he challenged all of his grandkids to, somebody's got to buy my mansion, because my kids didn't buy me a mansion. So somebody's got to buy my mansion. And, when my sisters and I, the third of us, we bought houses last year, and we were all kind of looking around, and our houses are significantly different condition, bigger than my grandfather ever lived in. And we're like, this is the mansion that he talked about, just wanting for us to do better than what he was able to do, even though he provided for his family consistently. And so if there's anything I could leave, it would be that we have a responsibility to leave a legacy for our children's children. And that was like so impressed upon me. And so I love these stories. I love them. I love them.
Can we do this again? I mean, I don't know how, but I love, I appreciated Mr. Dillard's approach, and, Tina just ended it with a bang, because I did not even think about, there are those kinds of men, and we interact with them all the time. I mean, but I never even, that part didn't even occur to me on that level. And so I would love to just rehash this on another level, because there's so many, it's not to bash as much as it's to say, oh, wow, this is just how they did it. And how to then, I think Janiyah said, how we converse it. Like, so now that we know, then how do we, I don't want to say correct, but work, turn it around, because what Tina just said just blew my mind. I was like, wow. I could imagine so many men who have certain conversations just with the guys, and I didn't even think about that. And she's a daughter, and she didn't even get that. So I just love that she shared that. So that was powerful. And then what Mr. Dillard said about bringing in the men, I think we interact with the men, but we don't even think about some of that other part of the interaction. Yeah. So I just really appreciated this combo.
No, we will definitely bring back the gender and finances conversation this Wednesday's webinar. Shonda, you want to pop in real quick? I see you there on camera. You want to talk about this week's webinar?
I would love to, since we have such a captive audience. This Wednesday, we are going to be featuring a Father's Day special as well as a Juneteenth special. We have the best of both worlds found in one person named Dr. Johnny Lake. If it sounds familiar, or even the initials, that's because he's the father of our very own Deputy Director, Janiyah Lake. And so we're excited to have Dr. Johnny Lake with us. We also are gonna let you in on a hidden secret, the men of D-Free. So I know you see all of us and all of our beauty, but we do have some brothers behind the scenes that are holding us down. And so they're going to be on there too, talking about their dads and talking about what they do for D-Free. So we want to encourage everyone to come out on Wednesday. It's at 12 noon. You can register on our website, which is www.mydfree.org. In addition to that, I want to just drop one little hint about the engagement hour. We're going to be here on Thursday night at 7 p.m. So if you're looking to lead an initiative, if you're looking to launch within your church, your organization, with your friend group, we want to get you started. So you need a strategy, you need some help behind the scene, you want to talk about best practices, meet us at the engagement hour. You can also register at that on our website at www.mydfree.org/calendar. Looking forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday and Thursday. Hey, Elder Dillard, I see you.
Yes, we get to hear from Jania's dad on Wednesday. I'm very excited about this conversation. It's going to be great. So again, just last minute reminders, please share Monday night with your friends and family. Also share the Juneteenth concert, share Wednesday webinars, share Thursday's engagement hour. I love this conversation. I didn't realize it would end up being this robust, but shout out to the men in our lives and how they've managed money and how they've impacted us. And we hope to continue to encourage our sons and our daughters to continue to do better than even we have. So contact us if you have questions, 844-693-3733, or email us info@mydfree.org if you have questions before we reconnect. I thank you guys for keeping the Monday Night Live energy going. This has been really fulfilling. And we just look forward to bringing you more.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Thank you, D Free team.
Bye-bye.
Bye.